Hi all, this is the Allmighty and welcome to this video. So in this video I have a really good one for you. So don't be discouraged, this is actually a game suggested to me by a subscriber. So it is probably of some players that maybe you haven't heard about. Actually on white side we have Volkov Sergey, really good Russian grandmaster. So he has a rating above 2600, and on the other hand we have a young 15-year-old Daghli Arash, an Iranian FIDE master. And yeah, so this is actually a game that was played a couple of days ago. As I've said, a game suggested by a subscriber by the name of just a second, Ovais Ahmad. So thank you for that. It was a really amazing game to analyze, and I'm really glad that I can now show it to you guys. It is truly an amazing game, so yeah, just enjoy. I will go jump straight into it. Just wanted to say, so the game was played in Iran in a 16 Kazar Cup, as I've said a couple of days ago. And yeah, so this is I think round 3, and we have d4 knight f6. So Volkov is white and Arash is black. We have c4 g6, so quickly go through the opening moves. Knight c3 g7 and e4 d6. So the king's Indian, a pretty standard formation, and in this situation Volkov goes for bishop to e2. Also possible moves are f3, f4, also knight to f3, but it depends on your preference what you want to do. In this opening, white is clearly picking up more space in the center. We have castles by black, knight to f3, but also here e5 is played. Black doesn't really want to give that much space to white. And now we have a decision from white. Do you want to push d5, or do you want to keep it as is so that black at some point can capture on d4? If, for example, you capture on e5, I just want to go over this variation because in the end you can see that white kind of gets a pawn, but not really, because we have knight captures on e4, and now the knight is captured, and if you capture back the knight, bishop captures the white knight, and in the end black is kind of equalized here, and yeah, he pick up the pawn in the center, and the material is equal. If, for example, you would want to play knight to f7, instead of that we have bishop captures on c3 first, and after bishop b captures on c3 we have king captures on f7, and in the end now black has a piece, he is a piece up. So you don't want to go for these exchanges in the center, and of course Volkov didn't do it. He played bishop to e3, and now you can, for example, play knight to g4, immediately attacking this bishop, but then bishop goes to g5, and if f6 then bishop h4. Instead of that we have by young Arash, e takes on d4. Knight takes on d4, and now rook to e8, attacking 2 times this pawn, f3 guarding. And now c6. A move that has 2 ideas. So first of all, you don't want to allow this knight to jump on d5, and also you're threatening d5. The reason is, after playing f3 in this position, the bishop is unguarded, so this pawn cannot capture on d5, so here Volkov played bishop to f2. Now we have d5 nevertheless, and e takes on d5, c takes on d5. Castles by white, smart decision, you want to keep your king safe, and now we have a knight to c6. So young Arash decided to pressure in the center even more. And now we have a decision by white once again. So in this situation you can either capture on d5, you can play some normal move like rook to c1, or like Volkov did, play c5. So the decision is, I want to leave black with an isolated pawn in the center, and that will be my main goal, to attack this pawn and try to get some advantage out of it. To actually counter it, Arash played a knight to h5. So similarly to Capablanca in the last game, and also in the last tournament that I showed you from him, he wants to jump with the knight to the edge of the board, and guard wants to jump also to f4, because knight would look really good on this square. Queen to d2 stops that, and now we have bishop to e5. So definitely wants to jump here in order to make some threats. We have g3 by Volkov, and now knight to g7, because now the knight cannot jump on f4, rather he will be remaneuvered somewhere on e6 or f5, depending on what white plays. Rook from f to d1, so doubling, so putting the rook here, so more pressure on the d5 pawn, and now bishop to f5. So black is kind of finished with the development. The only thing left is to, yeah, put the queen somewhere and connect the rooks. And yeah, white also finishes development. Now the rooks are on the c file and d file. All the pieces are somewhere, and now it's time to actually think about possible moves and plans. We have bishop to d4 in the meantime by black. So young Arash decided to give up the bishop pair for this bishop, but actually there is a really good idea behind it. We have bishop takes on d4 and knight to e6. So first of all, I want to cover, it is clear that this bishop was given, and now that black has a dark square bishop, and as you can see, dark squares in front of this king are wide open, so that could be a serious advantage for white. So now when you decided to give up your dark square bishop, now it's time to actually go into an offensive and block off this bishop. So knight to e6 exactly does that, because if you don't move the bishop, for example, if you play something like knight to b5, after all these exchanges, you're going away from the defense of this bishop. So you would have to move this bishop somewhere to f2, and now after d4, this bishop is completely cut off. There aren't any good squares for him. He is still attacking d4, but this is really good guarded by these two knights and the queen. So now we have knight to b5 and queen to d5. So centralizing the queen. As you can see, young Arash isn't really slowing down. So all of his moves are really attacking moves, and that is something that you really want to see in a chess game. So he isn't playing passive as black. He immediately saw that capturing on the d4, giving up the dark square bishop, is giving him some ideas, and he went for it. So this knight to b5 could be potentially a problem, because knight can jump to c7 if this knight moves, forking a lot of pieces. But okay, now actually there should be some kind of a decision from white. A possible move that you can play here is g4, because now this bishop doesn't really have a place to go. But after bishop takes and f takes on g4, you have knight to g5, and now there are ideas like knight jumping to h3. The queen is slicing over this diagonal, and it could be kind of problematic. So actually the best move is put the rook here, and now we cannot take with the pawn because the queen is attacked. Queen moves out of the pin, and now, as you can see, the rook is attacked, and also you're attacking this bishop. So in the end you have something like knight takes on d4, knight takes on d4, bishop takes on d4, and after all these exchanges you actually have an equal game. Okay, white has this bishop, but knight will come on e6, and this game is still played. But okay, instead of g4, Volkov actually decided to play b4. So some other threats include knight to c5 at some point, after you, of course, put something to defend this square, because, as I've said, this fork will be really bad for black in this situation. Or you can even play rook to d8. So here white decided to play b4 in order to stabilize on the c5. And now we have knight to g5. The move when the fun starts. So up until now black has been attacking, and it seems that kind of in this position he would like maybe have to play something like rook to d8, but instead of that he decided to play knight to g5. So in a sense, yeah, this knight is free for the taking, not really, and also he is moving the knight of defense of this square, which I said that the knight should be here in order to prevent all of these forks. But okay, so if queen actually captures on g5, then you have rook takes on e2, and now there is a rook on second rank. Even if knight to c7, we have queen to a2, and now this rook and queen are going to be destroying on the second rank. So here actually black is better. You don't want to do that, and Volkov didn't go for it. He played knight to c7, and now all of this forks. But okay. Black is not afraid. Young Arash plays a rook takes on e2. So in the style of Great Tal, the sacrifices start. As you can see, the queen is still hanging. This knight didn't move, and also now the rook is attacking this queen. What happens if you take the queen? Then you can, for example, capture on f3 first with check, and after king to f1, for example, you have rook to d2, and if there are some exchanges, in the end, black is left with a piece up. So this is one possible variation, but in the end, all of them will end up with black leading at least for a piece. So this isn't a good idea, and also capturing g5 doesn't make sense because then queen captures on f3, and there are threats on f2, and also bishop e4. This queen will give checkmate soon. So queen actually has to capture on e2, and this is what Volkov played. Next we have knight to f3. So still the queen is here, attacked from the knight, but knight to f3 is with check, and you have to do something about it. If you play to f1, this is checkmate in 1 by bishop to h3, so there are a lot of threats here. If you play to g2, you have knight to h4 check, so a double check from the queen and the knight, and after the king moves, you have something like this, queen to h1, bishop g1, so this is all forced, and in the end, white has to give up a queen once again. So the best move is, which Volkov actually played, king to h1. You are still here on this diagonal where the queen is, but you are safe from the knight to h4 because of knight to d5. So, okay, now Arash once again needs to find a best move. He played d3. So once again, leaving the queen wide open. So what happens if knight captures the queen? We have pawn captures on e2, and now the problem is for white that this rook really doesn't have a place to go. All these squares are attacked by the knight and the pawn, and all these squares are attacked by the knight and the bishop. So actually first knight f6 check, king g7, and rook to d6 guarding the knight. But now we have knight to b4, and next move is jump to d3. So for example, after king to g2, knight to d3 attacking the bishop, the rook, and also this promoting square. So you have to give up the rook, bishop takes, king takes, and in the end black is better because he has this pawn on e2, but it's opposite color bishop endgame, and it's still played. But okay, once again Volkov didn't go for it, so after d3 he played queen to e3, which is the best move in the game. And finally, after all of this, Arash decided, okay, fine, my queen cannot be attacked anymore, I'm going to play queen to d7. And now in this position, actually, Volkov made the first mistake in the game. The most natural move probably that you can see right away is queen to f3. You just capture, the queen captures this knight. Here, white is up the exchange, but he has this really scary d3 pawn that can be captured that easily. So yeah, this is also played, but Volkov decided to play the other natural move, which is knight captures on a8, and in this situation white is a rook up and the exchange up. So yeah, Volkov kind of guessed that young Arash blundered and went for the rook, but now he will get the fury of young Iranian FIDE master. First, he starts with knight to g5. Once again, let's offer all the pieces. So knight g5, once again, not a good move to capture it because of first bishop to e4 check, king g1, queen to h3, and checkmate follows. So Volkov didn't go for that. He went king to g1 to actually go out of those threats. But instead of that, we have knight to e5. He will offer up one more piece. So once again, it is not good to capture the knight because now we have knight to f3 check, forking the queen and the king, and the same thing happens if you capture the other knight. Again, the other knight will jump to f3, forking the queen and the king. So once again, Volkov needs to decide what is the best move for him. He decided to play c6, maybe to open up the position a little bit, but young Arash just ignores it and plays pawn takes on c6. And now rook to c5, attacking this knight, trying to activate more pieces into the game in order to make some counter threats. But now the finishing moves come. First, knight from e to f3 check. Once again, if king to f1, bishop to h3 checkmate, so you don't want to do that. Once again, you have to go into the corner with the king, and now we have bishop to e4. So putting the bishop on this diagonal, And yeah, the next move will be queen to h3, and the checkmate will soon follow. Actually, in this position there is a checkmate in 10, and actually the best move is to capture this bishop, but Volkov didn't do that. He played rook captures on d3, wants to also activate the other rook, but Arash plays correctly, queen to h3, threatening on h2 checkmate. So first we have rook to d8 check, king g7, and now you might think, okay, on d4 you cannot check because of this knight, but maybe you think, okay, queen c3 is a check and black is okay, but knight to d4, so blocking off this queen and also giving a check with the bishop, and the checkmate will soon follow on g2. So there aren't any real checks for white in this position. He decided to play bishop to g1, but now you have knight takes on h2 check from the bishop, queen takes on e4, and now knight comes back to f3 with check. And in this position, so first, yeah, as I've said, in this position Volkov resigned the game because bishop to h2 follows, and then queen to h2 is checkmate. So yeah, this is pretty much it for this video. I would like to thank once again user by the username Ahmat for the game. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it's just a great game, and this way I would like to encourage all of you subscribers. If you have some interesting games, please send it to me. I really enjoy analyzing them, and this way I get a chance to show you some really amazing games. So yeah, as I've said, this is pretty much it. I would like to thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time.